Problems in the trucking industry right now. There are a lot of problems going on in the trucking industry right now, guys. And if you're in an industry, you know it as well as everybody else. If you work for a company, companies are starting to lay people off because there's not enough freight to be moved. With the rising cost of fuel, and yeah, there are ways to get fuel surcharges and kind of bring that fuel price back down. With the cost of insurance going up, I know people that have had their insurance go up $5,000 a year as an owner-operator just from last year to this year, and it's just going to keep going up, and the rates keep going down, so there's less and less profit margins. You got people out there right now that are hauling loads for $1.50 a mile. This is not the days of Beach Hay and the Bear. You cannot haul loads for $1.50 a mile and still make it. I mean, $2.50 a mile is my bottom end whenever it comes to hauling anything. $2.50 a mile, guys. And even that is really too low. If you're an owner-operator and having to run your own truck, and there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, well, $1.50 a mile sounds fantastic. It does until you get to thinking about things along these lines. You're having to pay for the insurance on that truck. You're having to pay for the fuel on that truck. You're going to pay for anything that breaks on that truck. Truck parts are expensive. You got to put it in the shop. You can do some things yourselves, but there's some things you just got to put it in the shop for. If you want to get it back fast enough, you're just not going to be able to get it done fast enough on your own. And they're going to charge you a couple $100 an hour, most likely. If it's a good truck shop, that's what they're going to charge you. And these are all just growing problems in the trucking industry, guys. That, and you have the combination of the steering wheel holder movement, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are steering wheel holders. There's a lot of people out there, because of the evolution of the automatic trucks and everything, that think they're a truck driver just because they go down the highway in a semi-truck. That is not the truth at all. And the big problem also is the governors on these trucks govern them down to 65 miles an hour or less. I mean, there was companies out there that only had them set for like 56 miles an hour at one time or less. So, and now they've bumped them up some because they were getting in trouble because they were impeding traffic on the highway. And now there's talks about them having to up the governors on them to where they're going to have to be able to run even faster because they're impeding traffic going down the highway. And that is the thing. That's another problem in the trucking industry, is that people do not have respect for the trucks on the road. They just don't. Think about it. If you're driving down the highway in your car, how many people you see, and you see these people going down the road and they cut you off and they swerve over in front of you. Well, it's even worse being in a truck because you can't stop just all of a sudden. You can't shut that thing down in just 5 seconds like what a car can. You're having to deal with all that. You're having to deal with people swerving in and out of you. You're having to deal with people who are happy to sue. Too happy to try to get you to try to hit them so they can sue for that big payday. Because you have all these lawyers on TV that are saying, oh, well, yeah, if you've been hurt in a truck accident, then we'll take care of you and everything. We'll get you millions and millions of dollars. So people are trying to purposely actually do that without thinking about the consequences for it. Like the fact of they could do that, and that driver just lost his entire career because of something that you did and made happen. And people would argue with that and say, well, it's the driver's responsibility. It is, but again, they can't stop on a dime. And people will try to swerve out in front of you and try to do things to get you to hit them. I've experienced it. A lot of people out there have experienced it. Back in the old days, they used to have people that would drive up beside trucks, actually write down the license plate number, wait a day or two, they called in the police and said that they ran them off the road and they totaled their car. But the problem with that is that the shippers would have the times and stuff that they had broke down and stuff though, so they couldn't do that. And these days you can't do that either because with all the tracking and stuff on trucks and all the electronic logs and everything, things are just... It does make it harder for people to be able to say that you did something in an area when you weren't even there. And things along those lines. All these trucks have cameras on the outside of them now. All the new ones do. That's just, it's all good and bad at the same time, guys. The trucking industry is just going up and down right now. People aren't manufacturing as much stuff because they're unsure of the economy right now. everybody's unsure, like, because of the presidential race. Nobody knows who the actual candidates are at this point, it seems like. Going back and forth. People are kind of sketchy. They don't know what the economy's doing. The economy is dipping right now because of all the uncertainty in the world. That's really affecting truck drivers. And there's so many things out there that are affecting them that I didn't even mention, though, guys. But the lack of respect, the low pay, the stress of the job, people trying to get you to hit them for their big payday. There's just too many things out there that people just need to understand. Should you become a truck driver? If you want to become a truck driver, guys, absolutely go out and do it. Try it. Most people try it for a couple of years, and that's all they do it for because they realize it's not for them. You really have to have a special mindset and skill set to be able to do it because it's something that you really have to love to stick with, and a lot of people just don't have the mentality for it. And the stress gets to people, and you get burnt out, and you get to going down the highway. At first, people start off at something new, it's something neat. They're going out, and they're traveling the countryside and stuff, though, and they're getting to see places they probably never got to see before, and they're doing fantastic. But becoming a truck driver is a serious responsibility, guys. It's a job that very few are actually cut out to do. And you need to really think because you are responsible for a lot of things around you, guys. You're a lot bigger than everything else around you, so you've got to be a lot more careful. You got to be able to turn wider and stuff, though. There's truck driving schools out there, but truck driving school will not teach you how to drive. They'll teach you how to pass the test, and that's it. Most company trainers are not going to teach you anything either. That's just the sad reality of it. They're not going to teach you anything. They're out there with you basically so the company can get a cheap team driver if that's where they do it. Some companies, though, the better ones have it to where only you as the person that is due to the company or a new driver, you're doing all the driving, and then you and the trainer sleep at the same time. That's actually a better way to do it. A lot of the companies will try to use it as a way for them to get a cheap team driver and everything, and that's it. So that way the truck can keep moving, and they can keep making more money while they're able to do that. And then once you're out on your own, and some companies are going to team drivers only because they want to keep their trucks moving, and that's also cutting it down because there's a couple of basic exception too that you make more as a team driver. That's not true at all. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It really depends on your circumstances. So really do the research, guys. If you want to become a truck driver, really do the research. Dive down into it. Understand what you're actually getting into. Understand that the old days of what you love watching in Convoy or Smoking the Bandit, those days are gone. It's a whole new era and generation now. The trucks are not as good as they used to be. Of course, quality on everything has gone downhill. But the evolution of DEF and regen and all that have just made it to where they're not good vehicles. They have more problems. If you're going to get in the owner-operator game, guys, I highly recommend that you buy an older truck that's pre-DEF. Way less problems. Way less costly if you have to put it in the shop. And, guys, that's just some basic things to think about. One last piece of advice I'll leave you for, guys, especially you new drivers out there. When you're going to back up, if you're not for sure of where you're at, don't be ashamed of it. Get out and look and see where you're at. I've seen more accidents happen where people have not gotten out. They've backed into buildings. They've backed into things. They've tore everything down because by the time you hit something, it is too late. And also, don't be afraid to pull back up. If you got to pull up 100 times, you got to look 1,000 to make sure that you're doing it safely and everything, guys. Don't be worried about what everybody else is thinking around you. Do it safely, do it effectively, and make sure that you are doing it the proper way. Because at the end of the day, the police aren't going to care if you hit something or run over somebody or anything. They're going to be bugging at you and being like, well, why do we care like what they were thinking? Because you were the one in control of the vehicle. People care too much about this, and that's the problem. Another problem entirely is that these new truck drivers today, part of the generation that care too much about what people think. They're too worried about looking cool and doing it right the first time instead of being able to pull up and back up and being able to do it properly. Just some food for thought, guys. If you're going to do it, though, guys, get out there, do the research, make sure it's something that's actually going to be for you. The life on the road can be hard. It really is a hard life, because in truck stops, if you're going out there, another piece that's pretty drivers, especially when you get down your own. Pull into a Walmart, get your own food, get some lunch meat, do some things like that, because you're out there to make money. Don't be eating at truck stops all the time. There's nothing wrong with eating at truck stops on occasion. Going into the Denny's or the Burger King or whatever could be there. But it will break you so fast, because their prices are going to cost you twice of where anywhere else is. And the whole reason you're out there is to make money. Nobody's driving a truck just because they want to drive a truck, guys. At the end of the day, though, you're out there to make money and save as much of it as you can. And if you're going to do your own truck, I recommend driving for somebody else first, if you can, so that way you can save up some money and get some experience. That way your insurance rates go down. God bless each and every one of you. I'm Jared with General Exploration and Discovery. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Thank you for watching General Exploration and Discovery.